How's it going guys, Chris here, and today we're going to be going over all the different bosses you'll be able to fight throughout Chapter 1 of Black Myth Wukong. So the first boss you'll come up against in Black Myth Wukong, aside from the prologue fight, is a massive poleaxe wielding beast called the Bullguard, looking a bit like something you'd expect to see plodding around Middle-earth. This guy's got 4 eyes, loads of shoulder spikes, and a couple of beards for a bit of extra flair, because why the hell not? On the face of it, the Bullguard might seem like a tough enemy, though it's really just one designed to show you the ropes and get you used to some of the game's combat mechanics during the bosses, which there sure is plenty of. With that said, its attacks can still be pretty ferocious, slamming that axe down and forcing you to dodge at the right moment to avoid getting smashed into the dirt. About halfway through the fight, a little wise looking turnip faced dude's going to pop out and grant you the Immobilize ability, which basically lets you halt enemy movements in their tracks momentarily, allowing you to go to town on them with your melee combos while they're frozen. Always a handy little trick to pull during these boss encounters. You can go on to finish the rest of the fight against the Bullguard using your newly acquired power for a bit of assistance, dodging its slams, slashes and jumping strikes, while hopping in for a quick melee flurry whenever it's safe to do so in between. This isn't the last time you'll see a Bullguard though, with another one popping up again later on in the chapter, but you've already had a bit of practice dealing with these guys, so this one should be a piece of cake. Chapter 1 is full of brazen wolf enemies that all think they can best you in a fight. Most of them are hilariously unsuccessful, but one that could potentially give you a bit more trouble is Guangzhi. Probably the most badass wolf you'll come across, armed with a flaming double-edged spear. Now this guy means business, being a trickier customer than the Bullguard, having much quicker combos and more varied attack patterns that are harder to read, spinning that spear around to slice you up while slamming it down to try and stab you in the head. It can also lob that spear at you over distance, causing you to burst into flame if it connects, and you'll need to keep rolling around to extinguish the flames if you're set alight. Though with Guangzhi throwing lots of attacks at you constantly, you're probably going to be rolling around a lot anyway. With him being able to attack you from different ranges puts you at risk at all times during the fight, as you'll not only have to watch out for him launching that spear at you, but having a few different dash attacks also lets Guangzhi zip around the arena at lightning speeds, closing the gap on you while dealing lots of damage as he practically charges right through you. When you finally put this big bad wolf to sleep though, all of that tough punishment won't go amiss, as you'll be able to go over and pick up the boss's drop spear, allowing you to temporarily transform into Guangzhi himself, to aid you in future battles with other enemies and bosses. By far the toughest boss that you'll get to fight up till this point doesn't come in the form of some sort of cracked out hedgehog or a massive snake or anything like that, but a giant man baby with a spiky head. Go figure. You'll see this funny looking guy chilling out in the forest, seeming pretty harmless at first glance. The Wandering Wight is anything but harmless, having spiritual powers and some devastating attacks that can practically delete your health in a matter of seconds, especially if you're still getting to grips with the combat. Up close, he's going to stomp, slam and even headbutt you to try and crush you into the soil. And over distance, you're still not going to be safe from all those Jedi powers that come beaming out from the Wight's hands, unless you dodge at the last moment to avoid getting the power of God shot straight into your face. With the Wight often combining those melee attacks with the spiritual ones, you're going to have to memorise his attack patterns to avoid getting blasted to bits. The move you'll really want to watch out for though is a super destructive Earth Shatter ability that lets him punch the floor and transmit all of that godly energy into the ground beneath, only for it to erupt from the floor in waves around the boss, eventually exploding all around him in a shower of rocks and debris. The Wandering Wight certainly isn't for the faint of heart at the beginning, and it's perfectly acceptable to sneak past this guy and return to him later instead, rather than dying 50 times and launching your controller at the cat. Now a boss that definitely looks the part is a massive beast of a wolf called Lingxuzi, with oversized arms, evil red eyes, and lots of light flowing fur. Aside from looking like he's just gone through a whole crate of L'Oreal though, this creature also looks very capable of tearing you limb from limb, making all the other wolves look like Disney Pixar characters, while this guy ramps it up to the max on the Halloween scale. Being the first major boss you'll encounter, you can expect Lingxuzi to put up a decent fight, as despite being the size of a truck, he's actually surprisingly agile, often jumping around the arena to pounce on you from afar, even able to climb up to the surrounding buildings in the area, retreating from battle when he's taken a lot of flak, while gaining a high vantage point to quite literally get the drop on you. A lot of his attacks primarily come in the form of vicious bites and lunges, swinging his arms, spinning around, slamming the floor, and generally doing everything in his power to try and squish you like an annoying bug. Because of the overall speed of the creature's movements, leaping all over the place and being an awkward thing to get a good combo against, you'll definitely want to get some damage in whenever he stops mid-fight, and just casually decides to lick his paws. Howl attacks can be deadly if you get too close, so you'll want to keep some distance whenever he's about to do one. and being such a nimble creature with lots of fast maneuvers, that immobilize ability is going to be your best friend. Use it often, but use it wisely. So as you travel up through the river systems, you'll run into a giant frog dude chilling out in all the reeds. This is Baw-Li-Guhh-Lang, a big angry amphibian that won't let you pass without a fight first. Unsurprisingly, this guy's going to do all the typical stuff you'd expect a frog boss to do, hopping around all over the place while using a long stretchy tongue to hit you over range, kinda like Ogdo Bogdo from the Jedi series, though not quite as savage at least. With that said, Baw-Li-Guhh-Lang is still a very fast moving creature that can strike unexpectedly out of the blue, with a lot of his attacks primarily consisting of kicks, pounces, arm swipes and belly slams, some of which can hit you over distance at rapid speeds, and can be quite tricky to predict and dodge accordingly. Thankfully the big frog's not exactly got a ton of health, and it doesn't really have many long combos to trap you into, apart from maybe that tongue swipe attack that can slap you around senseless if you're nearby. You'll most likely have been softened up a bit first before this encounter by some of the boss's croaky minions jumping around in the same area, though it's definitely one of the easier fights in the chapter, and so it shouldn't cause you too many problems. Though it can still be a fairly annoying one if you're not ready for it, as getting kicked in the head over and over again won't exactly be a very fun experience. Guangmou is another smaller boss you'll encounter on your travels through the Bamboo Grove, basically being a purple guy that can perform a bunch of funky magic tricks. You're going to see all sorts of bizarre stuff in this showdown: teleportation, whirlwinds, magical floaty orbs, the whole shebang. As Guangmou not only casts his spells to cause you pain and suffering, but also to zip around the area and become a more awkward enemy to lock down and deal damage to. With most of his attacks being magic based, you can also expect some of them to use area of effect shockwaves, meaning he doesn't exactly need to be accurate to whittle down your health bar, and if he gets fed up of using magic, he can also just spew up on you I guess. He's a pretty wild dude. If you notice him dancing around like a drunken uncle at a New Year's party, well this just so happens to be his signature move, allowing him to summon a gang of smoke-spitting snakes that pop up out from the ground and slowly wear you down by firing nasty green plumes at you at a distance. These serve as a very effective distraction from the main boss, and you'll need to dodge or deflect those projectiles while dealing with whatever the boss decides to throw at you next. It's probably worth noting that some of Guangmou's attacks are infused with poison, like when he decides to puke up on you for instance. You'll need to be aware of that eating away at your health bar too, so you might be best stocking up on some antidotes first before you face him. Most likely the most punishing boss you'll face so far is Whiteclad Noble, who might look like he's about to ask you to open up the mosh pit, but as it turns out this dude is the mosh pit. There's no escaping the fury of the Whiteclad Noble, being one of the game's unavoidable boss encounters, and despite seeming like a fairly simple fight in the face of it, with the boss just being a human type guy with a few snake-like features, he'll actually put you to the test using a really deadly speared weapon. They can be twirled around at rapid speeds, using a variety of hard-hitting combo maneuvers and brutal stabbing strikes from range. He's a really agile boss that can be awkward to pin down at times, chaining together several moves one after the other as he zips around splashing water everywhere in the shallow pool. Some of those attacks are somewhat predictable, but not all of them are, especially the dashing lunges and spear throws, which can really catch you out if you're not careful. Just when you think you've wiped the floor with him, the Whiteclad Noble is going to do something that's completely diabolical. He's going to regenerate all of that health back to full and transform into an even tougher version of himself, basically into his true form, which just so happens to be a slippery water serpent. With phase 2 activated, this is where the real test begins, as although he'll be using a lot of similar attacks as before, he'll be more aggressive and eager to wipe away any health that you've got left in no time at all. Being able to slither away quickly also lets him retreat from danger easier too, and just to round things off, he's also going to slowly regenerate health as the fight rages on, so he pretty much uses every annoying trick in the book. What an absolute cock. The Black Wing King is another major boss you'll encounter, being a beefed up bald dude who wouldn't look too out of place in the WWE. This is the boss's human form, with you coming face to face with him again as his animal counterpart later on in the chapter, thankfully not pulling the same trick as the last guy. That doesn't necessarily mean this fight's going to be a walk in the park though, as he's armed with a huge spear that's got quite a lot of range, with the king being able to link together a bunch of swings and slams to create some truly devastating combos, complemented by the use of supernatural powers, allowing him to phase around the arena to strike from unexpected angles and catch you off guard. Whenever he transforms into the Black Wind itself, which is essentially a cloud of dusty particles, he becomes an invulnerable ghost-like spectre, which can charge forwards to knock you around multiple times. Though a little tip for you when he does this, just get ready to dodge whenever you see a pulse of sparks, as that's going to indicate that he's just about to come flying your way. Wind powers and spear whacks aside, the boss can also take a swig from his canister and breathe fire at you in close range, inflicting burn damage if you're nearby. Having so many things you'll need to think about and avoid can certainly ramp up the tension, especially with some of those spear combos being so lengthy, and with some of his slams having such a wide area of effect. Let's just say this guy's got a lot of wind. Remember the wandering Wight from before, i.e. the big baby man with those crazy powers? Well, he just so happens to have an equally spiritual counterpart, in the form of Elder Jinchi, a golden variant with a whole new set of unique combat mechanics. To reach this boss, you'll first need to ring 3 bells dotted around the chapter, and ringing the 3rd will whisk you away to a secret area, a creepy looking temple where everything's dying and decaying. Once the fight kicks off with Jinchi, you'll immediately notice that you guys aren't alone in that temple, with a bunch of shambling zombie-like creatures pacing around, giving you some company while you battle it out between each other. Now Jinchi shares quite a lot of his moves with the wandering Wight, wafting his arms around and stomping around like a petulant child throwing a tantrum. And most of these attacks are fairly readable, especially if you've already had some practice against his stompy brother. Just beware of the big bonk, of course. Jinchi can also use his powers to blast you into oblivion too, though he tends to use it more so on those nearby zombies instead, acting as henchmen to do his bidding, becoming walking bombs which detonate to deal splash damage. Those zombies can also heal the boss whenever he hovers up into the air and meditates, so you'll obviously want to stop that from happening, by wiping them out before they get a chance to reach him. Though it's good to know that killing those zombies will actually grant you some health too, so if you're low and in need of some replenishment, don't be afraid to go on a bit of a rampage. It's not exactly a brutal boss encounter, but because Elder Jinchi can potentially get tons of health back from the undead, this can still make it a pretty drawn out one, especially if your zombie slaying skills aren't up to scratch. The Black Wind King is out for a bit of revenge, only the next time you meet, he'll be at the top of the mountain as the Black Bear Guai, his superior creature form. He's thrown that spear aside in favour of raw power and brute force, supersizing up as a gigantic bear with razor-sharp claws. He's going to be throwing his body weight around, trying to flatten you with his hefty momentum, frantically waving his arms around and slamming the floor to crush you into the stony path below. To heat things up a bit, parts of the arena have also been set alight, with the fires burning you if you accidentally wander on through them, adding even more peril to the fight and forcing you to be extra careful where you tread. A lot of the bear's attacks involve getting up close and smacking the living crap out of you, but you've got to remember that after all, this is still the Wind King we're dealing with here, who's able to vanish into a puff of smoke, only to reappear for a sneaky pounce attack. The Black Bear Guai not only uses wind powers against you, but he can also infuse them with fire too, igniting the area around him, causing flames to shoot up all over the place. Also setting himself on fire too, as he turns into the Wind Wisp and floats around in the air, dashing at you just like he did in the previous fight. If you picked up the Fireproof Mantle after defeating Elder Jinchi, then this can help you out a fair bit, by negating a lot of the fire damage you'll receive, along with helping to build your focus meter faster. Especially handy for the second part of the fight, where the Black Bear's engulfed in flames, attempting to burn you to a crisp. This bit will probably seem a bit harder, having to put up with everything being ablaze, but just be patient and try your best not to get barbecued in the process. So the last and most secretive boss in Chapter 1 can't actually be accessed until you collect a key from Chapter 2. You need to break a specific wall within a cave, allowing you to pass through and collect an artifact called the Long Scales. Only then you'll be able to head back over to the forest in the first chapter and interact with a big waterfall, allowing you to walk on through it. You'll be not so pleasantly greeted on your arrival by a raging dragon creature called the Red Loong, who's charged up with electricity, able to float around the arena while discharging bolts of lightning. You've got to be careful not to get squished by the creature as it dives around the place, mashing the ground nearby with its claws. And with so many of Red Loong's attacks creating shock surges, this gives them an even wider area of effect than normal. Pretty much every part of this guy's been electrified, including his long bladed tail, also used to lash out by spinning around and jabbing forwards to slice you up. That tail is going to be used a lot in this fight, giving the creature extended reach with its melee strikes, so you'll constantly need to stay vigilant and be ready to dodge any lightning spots that form around the arena as he attacks. This might seem like a really nasty boss to be up against at first, especially with him having so much health, along with all those awkward shock attacks, but this electricity can also be the dragon's downfall, as if you wear him down enough, Red Loong will sometimes become briefly stunned, needing to lie down for a bit to recuperate, leaving him open to getting exploited by his own power. By now you'll have probably noticed a few electrical pots crackling away on the creature's back. These are what you'll want to target when he's staggered, as destroying one will blow it up, rip a hefty chunk out of that health bar, and generally make life a hell of a lot easier. It's a fairly tough fight, but not quite so bad when you figure out its big weakness. So those are all the bosses in the first chapter of Black Myth Wukong. If you enjoyed this guide or found it useful, please give me a thumbs up on the way out, and be sure to check out my other guides on the game, including a rundown on the smaller enemy types that can also be encountered on your journey too. Thanks for watching guys, have a great day, and I'll be seeing you in that next one.